Hey there, folks. Today, we're going to dive into the fascinating world of the M2 Bradley, a versatile and iconic vehicle that has played a significant role in military history. The M2 Bradley is a family of armored fighting vehicles designed to provide fire support and troop transport. It was first introduced in the 1980s and has since undergone various upgrades and modifications. Let's take a look at some of the key variants. M2, the original version, equipped with a 25mm M240 Bushmaster chain gun and a 7.62mm M240 machine gun. M3, a later variant featuring a 30mm M240 Bushmaster chain gun and a 7.62mm M240 machine gun. M2A1, an upgraded version featuring a 25mm M240 Bushmaster chain gun and a 7.62mm M240 machine gun. M2A2, a more advanced variant equipped with a 25mm M240 Bushmaster chain gun and a 7.62mm M240 machine gun. M2A2 ODSE, an enhanced version featuring a 25mm M240 Bushmaster chain gun and a 7.62mm M240 machine gun. M2A3, the latest variant equipped with a 30mm M240 Bushmaster chain gun and a 7.62mm M240 machine gun. M2A4, a future variant featuring a 30mm M240 Bushmaster chain gun and a 7.62mm. Now, did you know that the Bradley chassis has been used for other purposes as well? For instance, it has been used as a platform for the Mission Enabler Technologies demonstrator or robotic combat vehicle. So, there you have it, folks. The M2 Bradley, a versatile and iconic vehicle with a fascinating history and numerous variants. Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to follow and subscribe for more interesting military history facts. Until next time, stay curious. The M2 Bradley, or Bradley IFV, is an American infantry fighting vehicle that is a member of the Bradley fighting vehicle family. It is manufactured by BAE Systems Land and Armaments, formerly United Defense, and entered service in 1981, with fielding beginning in 1983. The Bradley is designed for reconnaissance and to transport a 9-man rifle squad, providing them protection from small arms fire, while providing firepower to both suppress and eliminate most threats to friendly infantry. It is designed to be highly maneuverable and to be fast enough to keep up with heavy armor during an advance. The M2 holds a crew of 3, a commander, a gunner, and a driver, and can carry 6 fully equipped soldiers as passengers. In the year 2000, the total cost of the program was $5,660,100,000 United States dollars for 1,602 units, giving an average unit cost of $3,166,000, equivalent to $5,841,000 in 2025. 3. Design. The Bradley IFV was developed largely in response to the amphibious Soviet BMP family of infantry fighting vehicles, and to serve as both an armored personnel carrier APC and a tank killer. Design began in 1963, failed verification, and it entered production in 1981. 4. A specific design requirement was that it should be as fast as the new M1 Abrams main battle tank so that they could maintain formation while moving, something which the older M113 armored personnel carrier, designed to complement the older M60 Patton, could not do. Armament. Bradley firing its 25mm autocannon in 1984. The Bradley is equipped with the M240 25mm autocannon as its main weapon. The M240 has a single barrel with an integrated dual feed mechanism and remote feed selection. 5. Unreliable source. The Bradley carries 300 ready rounds into ready boxes, one of 70 rounds, usually AP-type rounds, the other of 230 rounds, usually HE-type rounds, with another 600 rounds in storage. The 2 ready boxes allow a selectable mix of rounds, including the M791 APDSD armor-piercing discarding sabot with tracer, and M790 Tahiti high explosive incendiary with tracer rounds. The 25mm automatic gun is primarily used for clearing bunkers and firing on lightly armored vehicles. 6. The 25mm automatic gun is not the weapon of choice for engaging tanks, but vehicle commanders, crews, and Call and Army Infantry Center personnel have reported isolated instances in which the 25mm automatic gun disabled older generation tanks. However, Army Materiel Systems Analysis Activity AMSAA officials stated that, on the basis of their assessment of combat vehicles in the Persian Gulf War, for the 25mm automatic gun to incapacitate a tank, it would have to be hit at close range in its more vulnerable areas. 6. M2A1 Bradley firing a TOW-2 missile. Subsequent ammunition developments resulted in the M919 APFSDSD armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding sabot with tracer round, which contains a fin-depleted uranium penetrator similar in concept to armor-piercing munitions used in modern tanks. The M919 was used in combat during the 2003 invasion of Iraq. It is also armed with an M240C machine gun mounted coaxially to the M242, with 2,200 rounds of 7.62mm ammunition. For engaging heavier targets, such as tanks, the Bradley has a TOW missile system on board. It was changed from the M2A1 model to fire TOW-2 missiles. M2 infantry Bradleys have firing ports for a number of M231 firing port weapons (FPWS). Modified M16 assault rifles, providing a button-up firing position to replace the topside gunners on the old ACAV, though the M231 is rarely employed. Initial variants carried 6, but the side ports were plated over with the new armor used on the A2 and A3 variants, leaving only the 2 rear-facing mounts in the loading ramp. Protection: M2 Bradley on display at the National Museum of the United States Army, Fort Bevo, Virginia. The M2's base armor consists of an all-around 1-inch 25.4mm thick aluminum hull mix of No. 5083 and No. 7039 alloys, heavily sloped in the front and mostly vertical on the sides and rear. The bottom of the hull front has an additional 0.375-inch 9.5mm thick steel applique plate, primarily intended to protect against mines. Both sides of the vehicle have an additional 0.5-inch 12.7mm of high-hardness steel armor consisting of 2/4-inch applique armor plates spaced 1 inch apart from each other, the first spaced 3.5 inches from the aluminum hull. The turret, unlike the hull, is armored only in steel. The M2A1 version has identical armor, but adds a gas particulate filter unit for NBC protection. 7. This armor offers protection against threats up to and including 14.5 by 114mm AP. 8. The M2A2 Upray adds additional armor. More steel applique armor is added to the vehicle's front, requiring removal of the trim vane. 1.25-inch 32mm steel plates were added to the hull sides, replacing the earlier applique armor, as well as to the front and sides of the turret. The new armor covered up the infantry firing ports on the vehicle's sides. Spaced laminate armor was added to the hull rear, and Kevlar spall liners were added to critical areas. Options for ERA were also added. These armor upgrades added about 3 tons to the vehicle's weight. 9. Countermeasures. The use of aluminum armor and the storage of large quantities of ammunition in the vehicle initially raised questions about its combat survivability. Spaced laminate belts and high-hardness steel skirts were added to later versions to improve armor protection, increasing overall weight to 33 tons. However, combat operations have not shown the Bradley to be deficient, with few losses. Citation needed. In friendly fire incidents in Desert Storm, many crew members survived hits that totally destroy lighter US MCLAV-25 vehicles. 10. All versions are equipped with 2 4-barreled smoke grenade launchers on the front of the turret for creating defensive smoke screens or firing chaff or flares. In December 2018, the Army announced it would install an Israeli-made active protection system, the Iron Fist, on M2 Bradleys of 1 armored brigade to enhance protection of the aging Bradley against anti-tank rockets and missiles. 11. However, the original configuration proved not to be sufficiently effective, delaying installation. Testing in 2022 of a reconfigured version called the Iron Fist Light decoupled were more successful, and the Army intends to field a brigade, set in 2025. 12. Funding to equip several dozen Bradleys with Iron Fist was secure in early 2024. 13. Chassis. The Bradley has a welded aluminum unit or monocoque structure to which the armor is attached, mostly on the outside. The suspension is by torsion bars and cranks. 6 small rubber-rimmed, divided road wheels on each side straddle the location flanges sticking up from the tread. These were originally of aluminum, but were changed to steel as vehicle weight increased. The steel treads sit on flat hard rubber tires. Mobility. The Bradley is highly capable in cross-country open terrain, in accordance with one of the main design objectives of keeping pace with the M1 Abrams main battle tank. Whereas the M113 would float without much preparation, the Bradley was initially designed to float by deploying a flotation curtain around the vehicle. This caused some drownings due to failures during its first trials. Flotation was no longer possible after armor upgrades. Bradley Squad and Platoon Organization. Dismounting from the Bradley. The evolution of Bradley Squad and Platoon Organization. Squad organization in an M2A1 top panel and an M2A3 bottom. Since 1986, the U.S. Army has believed 9 to be the optimal number of individuals in a mechanized squad. Because of the limited room available for passengers in the Bradley, accommodating a full squad in the Bradley is accomplished by squad splitting. 14. A mechanized platoon consists of soldiers other than the squad members, and those soldiers must also ride in the vehicles. The original Bradley had room for 3 crew members and 6 passengers, called dismounts by the U.S. Army. An original mechanized platoon with 4 M2 Bradley vehicles included 12 crew and 2 infantry squads of 9 dismounts. 5 other dismounts were also in the platoon and needed to be transported in the platoon's vehicles. The platoon leader, a radio telephone operator, a medic, and to forward observers, whose role is to call for support fire from artillery and aircraft. Together they filled 35 of the 36 available spaces in the platoons for vehicles. In the later M2A2 and M2A3 versions of the Bradley, the Army rearranged the interior stowage and created space for an extra dismount in each vehicle, resulting in spaces for 7 dismounts in each vehicle and a total of 40 soldiers in the 4-vehicle platoon. With the extra men, the Army reorganized the Bradley platoon into 3 squads with 9 dismounts each. The Bradley crew of 12 stayed the same, thus there was room in the Bradleys for only 1 more dismount, the platoon leader. That new configuration did not leave room for the medic, platoon radio telephone operator, or forward observers. In actual practice, however, units rarely have all the men they are assigned, so there is usually room for those extra soldiers. 14. Even with the extra space in the revised Bradleys, the squads were split among more than 1 Bradley. A split squad can be difficult to organize and control immediately after dismounting, especially in under fire and in complex terrain. The Army seeks to avoid that difficulty by requiring the GCV to carry the full 9-man squad. A 4-vehicle GCV platoon will have room for 12 crew members and 36 dismounts. With 3 squads fully occupying 3 GCVs, the 4th GCV will have room for the platoon leader, forward observers, radio telephone operator, and medic. 14. History. Main article. Bradley Fighting Vehicle. Production history. United States Army M2 Bradley in 1985. Germany. The M2, which was named after World War II General Omar Bradley, carries a crew of 3 and a 6-man dismountable infantry squad. The vehicle entered service with the U.S. Army in 1981, and 4,641 M2 variants have been produced since. Even after the troubled development history of the Bradley, 15 additional problems occur after production started, as later detailed by Air Force Colonel James G. Burton, who took part in the design and fielding process. 16. Burton advocated the use of comprehensive live fire tests against fully loaded military vehicles to check for survivability. 17. The Army and Navy agreed and established the Joint Live Fire Testing Program in 1984. 18. When testing the Bradley, disagreements occurred between Burton and the Ballistic Research Laboratory, BRL, at Aberdeen Proving Grounds, which preferred smaller, more controlled, building block tests that could be used to improve the databases used to model vehicle survivability, as opposed to full-up tests with random shots, which reduced the possibility of bias but produced little useful statistical data. 18. Burton insisted on a series of overmatch tests in which weapon systems would be fired at the Bradley that were known to be able to easily penetrate its armor. 17. Burton saw attempts to avoid such tests as dishonest, while the BRL saw them as wasteful, as they already knew the vehicle would fail. 18. The disagreements became so contentious that a congressional inquiry was set up. 19. As a result of the tests, additional improvements to vehicle survivability were added. 20. By May 2000, 4,641 M2 South had been produced for the U.S. Army. 21. Saudi Arabia stated an interest in acquiring the Bradley in 1989 and began importing the vehicle in 1990. Bradley production concluded in 1995. A total of 6,785 M2, M3 Bradleys were produced, including 400 for Saudi Arabia. 22. Combat history. A Bradley IFV burns after being hit during the Battle of 73 Easting, one of only 3 Bradleys lost to the Iraqis. February. During the 1991 Persian Gulf War, M2 Bradleys destroyed more Iraqi armored vehicles, and the M1 Abrams. 23 failed verification. See discussion. 20 Bradleys were lost, 3 to enemy fire and 17 due to friendly fire incidents. Another 12 were damaged, 24 to remedy some problems that were identified as contributing factors in the friendly fire incidents, infrared identification panels and other marking. Identification measures were added to the Bradleys. Citation needed. In the Iraq War from 2003, the Bradley proved somewhat vulnerable to improvised explosive device IED and rocket-propelled grenade RPG attacks, but casualties were light. The doctrine was to allow the crew to escape at the expense of the vehicle. In early 2006, total combat losses had been between 55 and 100 Bradleys. 25-26. By the end of the war, about 150 Bradleys had been destroyed. 27. Unreliable source. The M2A3 variant began to replace the M3A3 cavalry fighting vehicles, U.S. Army Armored Reconnaissance Units in 2014, as the increased ammunition loads carried by the M3A3s reduced the number of scouts that could be transported. In 2016, a reorganization of reconnaissance unit structures and compositions saw large-scale replacements of Humvees within these units, with M2A3 South, increasing the tactical mobility and maneuver warfare capabilities of U.S. Army Armored Reconnaissance Brigades. 28-29. A Bradley IFV captured by Russian forces, on display at Russian Army Trophies exhibition in Moscow. On the 5th of January 2023, the Pentagon confirmed that 50 Bradleys were included as part of a $3 billion package of assistance to Ukraine during the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. France had promised to send AN-X-10 RCN Akhmat Bastions. 30. Germany also committed to sending the Marder IFV. 31-30-33. The Bradleys were sent because the U.S. had determined that Ukrainian forces were proficient in maintenance and sustainment of such a FVS. 34-35. Another 59 vehicles were included in another package later that month. 36 Bradleys were first shown to be in Ukrainian service in mid-April 2023. 37. Ukraine first employed M2 Bradleys in combat during the 2023 Ukrainian counteroffensive beginning in early June 2023. On the 8th of June, Russian drone footage showed multiple Bradleys damaged and destroyed in Zaporizhia Oblast along with a Leopard 2A6. 38. Several more were lost to mines and ATG missiles while attempting to breach Russian defensive lines. 39. Ukrainian soldiers lauded the survivability of the Bradley, saying it protected them from hits that would have been lethal if sustained by a Soviet APC, and that many of the vehicles that became disabled from combat damage could be recovered and repaired. 40. Ukraine's Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar said on Telegram that one M2 Bradley assigned to the 47th Mechanized Brigade had been able to destroy two Russian T-72 tanks in a single engagement. 41-42. On the 5th of November, pictures began to circulate on Russian social media of a captured M2A2 Bradley near the villages of Avdiivka and Stepov in Donetsk Oblast, bearing the Bradley Reactive Armor Tiles Protection System. Footage of the captured Bradley was broadcast on Russia's Channel 1, in a segment showing several masked members of the Russian recovery crews examining the vehicle. 43-44. Ukrainian forces have used M2 Bradleys in ambushes and defensive fighting around Avdiivka. The 25mm autocannon has been used to destroy 3 Russian MTLB vehicles in one engagement, while also engaging supporting Russian infantry. The enhanced optics allow for night attacks. 45-46. On the 12th of January 2024, footage emerged of a pair of Ukrainian M2A2 Bradleys from the 47th Mechanized Brigade engaging and disabling a Russian T-90M Proriev tank at close range in Stepov, Ukraine. In an engagement which lasted 10 minutes, the two Bradleys were able to incapacitate the tank by firing at the mechanism, which turned the tank's turret, causing it to spin uncontrollably and render it inoperable. 48-49. As of May 2025, 175 Ukrainian Bradleys had been confirmed to have been lost by photos or videos. 91 of them destroyed and the rest damaged, captured, or abandoned on the battlefield. 50. In April 2025, Russian military experts examined a captured M2A2 SA Bradley. Testing found it superior to a BMP-3 in testing. 51. Finding the Bradley to better protected from gunfire, shell splinters and land mines. The 25mm cannon had reportedly doubled the range of the BMP-3 cannon. 52. Replacement, Army tests of an advanced running gear using the Bradley fighting vehicle as a surrogate for the OMFV. U.S. Army efforts to replace the Bradley began in the mid-1980s under the Armored Systems Modernization Program. The Army studied creating several vehicle variants under a common heavy chassis to replace main battle tanks and Bradleys. This effort was cancelled in 1990 due to the collapse of the Soviet Union. 53. The U.S. Army began the Future Combat Systems FCS Manned Ground Vehicles program in 1999. This family of 18-ton lightweight tracked vehicles centered around a common chassis. It would consist of 8 variants, including infantry carriers, scouting vehicles and main battle tanks. FCS was cancelled in 2009 due to budget cuts. In 2010, the Army began the Ground Combat Vehicle program to replace the M2 Bradley. Entries from BAE and General Dynamics were selected for evaluation. Concerns grew around the vehicle's proposed weight of around 70 tons. 54. The GCV program was cancelled in 2014 due to sequestration budget cuts. In June 2018, the Army established the Next Generation Combat Vehicle and GCV program to replace the M2 Bradley. In October 2018, the program was redesignated as the Optionally Manned Fighting Vehicle OMFV. 55. This program placed much of the cost burden of development on contractors, causing many competitors to drop out. In February 2020, the Army restarted the program, promising to take on more responsibility for funding. 56 American Rheinmetall vehicles and General Dynamics land systems were selected in June 2023 to move forward with the program, with a winner to be selected in 2027 and the XM30 mechanized infantry combat vehicle planned to be fielded by 2029. 57. Variants: M2, AM2 Bradley configured for swimming, Fort Benning, June 1983. An early M2 Bradley during exercise Shadow Hawk 87. The M2 was the basic production model, designed to carry 10-person teams, first fielded in 1981. The M2 can be identified by its standard TOW missile system, steel laminate armor, and 500 horsepower 370 kilowatts Cummins VT903 engine with HMPT 500 hydromechanical transmission. Basic features included an integrated sight unit for the M2 40 to 25 mm gun and thermal imaging system. The M2 was amphibious, but the use of a swim barrier or flotation screen, and was transportable, IC-141 Starlifter and C-5 Galaxy aircraft. All M2 vehicles have been upgraded to improve standards. The M2 armor protects the vehicle through a full 360 degrees against 14.5 mm armor-piercing incendiary AP ammunition. The turret was offset to the right to maximize the room in the passenger compartment. 6 infantry soldiers for dismounted fighting were held in the passenger compartment. Vision for the troops was provided through 3 periscopes placed between the rear ramp and the cargo hatch just behind the turret, as well as 2 periscopes on each side of the hull above the side firing ports. The passenger compartment held up to 5 TOW or Dragon missile reloads. The side and rear hull armor consisted of 0.25 and 6.4 mm steel plates 1 inch apart and 3.5 and 89 mm away from the aluminum armor. The hull top, bottom, and front consisted of 5083 aluminum armor, and 0.357 and 9.1 mm steel armor was added to the front third of the hull bottom to increase mine protection. 958. M3. Main article: M3 Bradley. The M3 Bradley CFV is very similar to the M2 Bradley IFV infantry fighting vehicle and is fielded with the same two-man 25mm Bushmaster cannon turret with the coaxial 7.62mm machine gun. It only varies from the M2 in a few subtle ways and by role. The M3 is classified as an armored reconnaissance and scout vehicle and does away with the firing ports found in the M2 series. The M3 carries more tow missiles as well as more ammunition for its 25mm and 7.62mm guns. M2A1. Introduced in 1986, the A1 variant included an improved tow-to-missile system, a gas particulate filter unit's GPFU-NBC system, and a fire suppression system. In 1992, the M2A1 South had begun being remanufactured to upgraded standards. The GPFU system was only connected to the vehicle commander, driver, and gunner, while the infantry squad had to use their own from MOPP suits. A 7th infantryman was added just behind the center of the turret. 9. M2A2. A U.S. Army M2A2 equipped with explosive reactive armor deployed to Somalia to provide security for UNOSOM 2. 1994. Introduced in 1988, the A2 received an improved 600 horsepower for 147 kilowatts engine with an HMPT 503 hydromechanical transmission. Armor was improved, both passive and the ability to mount explosive reactive armor. The new armor protects the Bradley against 30mm APDS rounds and RPGs, or similar anti-armor weapons. The new armor eliminated the trim vane that made the Bradley amphibious and covered up the side firing ports. Spaced laminate armor was installed to the hull rear. Spaced laminate track skirts protected the lower hull. A Croatian Army M2A2ODS Bradley. A semicircular shield was attached to the turret rear to add more stowage space, as well as act as spaced armor. Kevlar spall liners were added to critical areas. The troop carrying number was reduced to 6, eliminating the periscope position behind the driver. After LEV firing testing, the seating and stowage arrangements were redrawn. These upgrades raised the cumulative gross weight of the vehicle to 30,519 kilograms, 67,282 pounds, 30.037 long tons, 33.6 for 1 short tons. 6. The M2A2 was qualified to be transported by the C-17 Globemaster III. M2A2s were all eventually modified to the M2A2ODS or M2A3 standard. 9. M2A2ODS, ODSE. A U.S. Army M2A2 at the National Training Center, Fort Irwin. The Operation Desert Storm and Operation Desert Storm engineer improvements were based on lessons learned during the First Gulf War in 1991. The major improvements included an eye-safe laser rangefinder LRF, a tactical navigation system TACNAV incorporating the precision lightweight GPS receiver PLGR and the digital compass systems DCS. A missile countermeasure device designed to defeat first-generation wire-guided missiles, and the Force 21 Battle Command Brigade, and below FBCB to Battlefield Command Information System. The internal stowage was further improved and a thermal imaging system was added for the driver. The infantry squad was again increased to 7 men, 6 of whom sat facing each other on to 3-man benches in the passenger compartment, with the 7th back in the position behind the turret. An MRE meal, ready-to-eat heater, was added to the vehicle to assist in the preparation of food. With the retirement of the Dragon missile, the vehicle had the option of carrying Javelin anti-tank missiles. 9. M2A3. A M2A3 Bradley operating near Fallujah, Iraq, in November 2004. The main recognition feature of the M3A3 is the commander's independent viewer SIF at the right rear of the turret. M2A3 Bradley thermal sight, introduced in 2000. The A3 upgrades make the Bradley IFV totally digital, with upgraded or improved existing electronic systems throughout, improving target acquisition and fire control, navigation, and situational awareness. The survivability of the vehicle was upgraded with a series of armor improvements, again both passive and reactive, as well as improved fire suppression systems and NBC equipment. 59. 3 M2A3 Bradley's exit and OCCD at the start of a patrol at Fort Irwin, California. The A3 Bradley incorporates the improved Bradley acquisition subsystem IBIS and the commander's independent viewer SIF. Both include a second-generation forward-looking infrared FLIR and an electro-optical TV imaging system. The IBIS has direct-view optics TVO and the eye-safe laser rangefinder LRF. 60. The CIV allows the commander to scan for targets and maintain situational awareness while remaining under armor, and without interfering with the gunner's acquisition and engagement of targets. 61. A pair of M2A3 Bradleys firing their M240 chain guns in a live-fire exercise. The A3's fire control software FCSW combines laser range, environmental readings, ammunition type, and turret control inputs to automatically elevate the gun for range and to automatically generate a kinematic lead solution if a target is moving. 60. This functionality, very similar to that of the M1 Abrams, allows the gunner or commander to center the reticule on a moving target, laze the target, and achieve a first-round hit without the need to fire sensing rounds and adjust aim. 61-62. The FCSW incorporates a thermal-aided target tracker-off function that can track to targets in the FLIR field of view and switch between them, primarily intended for employing tow missiles against moving vehicles. 62. The FCSW allows the turret and gunner sights to be slewed automatically onto a target that has been designated with the CIV. 61. The A3 Bradley uses a position navigation subsystem that incorporates a global positioning system GPS, an inertial navigation unit (INU), and a vehicle motion sensor (MVS). 60. Which, in addition to allowing accurate on-vehicle navigation, allows accurate position reporting and the ability to hand off designated targets to other units via FBCB2. 62. The commander's tactical display CTD presents information from the FBCB2 and the vehicle navigation systems on a moving map display. This allows the commander to communicate via text over FBCB2 and allows him to check vehicle built-in test bit information and access various other information. 60. To the squad leader's display SLD in the infantry compartment improves the situational awareness of the passengers by allowing them to view navigational information from the FBCB2 and imagery from the IBAS, CIV, or driver's vision enhancer DV to familiarize themselves with their surroundings prior to dismounting. 60. The M2A3 Bradley II and an M2A3 Bradley variant used in Iraq were included in the GCV analysis of alternatives. 63. M2A4 troopers assigned to 1st Cavalry Division engage an opposing force during the testing of the newest which version of the Bradley, Fort Cavacus, October 24, 2020. After the Iraq War, the Army began to research engineering change proposals ECPS for the M2 Bradley to restore space, weight, power, and cooling capacity reduced by the addition of armor and electronics. Haste Act 1 will work to restore mobility and allow the vehicle to handle more weight. As its weight increases, the Bradley sits lower on its suspension, which reduces its ground clearance. This decreases mobility on rough terrain and leaves the vehicle more vulnerable to IEDs. 60 for 65. The effort will install lighter tracks, shock absorbers, a new suspension support system, and heavyweight torsion bars. The Army will upgrade its entire active fleet of Bradleys with ECP-1. This comes out to 3,340 for vehicles, with the final upgrades being procured in FY22. 66. M2A for Bradley, M2A for E1 with Iron Fist. Act 2 will restore automotive power with a larger engine, a new transmission, and a smart tower management system for better electrical power distribution to accept future network tactical radio and battle command systems. 60 for 65. The first Bradleys upgraded with Act 1 were fielded in mid-2015, and the first to be upgraded with ECP-2 will begin fielding in 2018. 67. Vehicles that receive both the Act 1 and Act 2 upgrade will be designated A4. 68. In June 2018, Base Systems Land and Armaments was awarded a contract to produce up to 160 for M2A4 and M7A for Bradley fighting vehicles using existing M2A3, M7A3 and M2A2 SA Bradleys. 69. The M2A4 is equipped with an enhanced drivetrain, a more powerful engine, new digitized electronics, a new fire suppression system, and a new IED jammer. 70. The first M2A4 models were fielded in April 2022. 71. The U.S. Army program of record for M2A4 and M7A4 vehicles as of March 2023 was 731, enough for CONUS armored brigades, as well as one European Defense Initiative armored brigade and Tradoc vehicles. M66. In April 2024, the U.S. Army unveiled the M2 Abrams Bradley with the Iron Fist Active Protection System integrated. 72. Mission Enabler Technologies Demonstrator. The MET-D is an experimental variant of the M2 Bradley, which prototypes the use of surrogate robotic combat vehicles (RCVS) that are operated by the crew of the MET-D. It is equipped with a remote turret for the main 25mm chain gun, 360-degree situational awareness cameras and enhanced crew stations with touchscreens. 73-74. Other uses of the Bradley chassis. M6 Linebacker. The Bradley series has been widely modified. Its chassis is the basis for the M270 multiple launch rocket system, the M4C2V battlefield command post, and the M6 Bradley Linebacker air defense vehicle, armed with a quad Stinger surface-to-air missile launcher in place of the TOW anti-tank missiles, but maintaining the 25mm autocannon. The M6 Bradley Linebacker air defense vehicle, no longer in service, possessed a unique role in the U.S. Army, providing highly mobile air defense at the front line. The Bradley suspension system has been used on upgraded versions of the U.S. Marines assault amphibious vehicle.